The birth of Isaac. Long ago, in a time when the land was still new to the stories we know, a quiet promise waited in the night air. It was a gentle kind of hope, soft and nearly silent. This is the story of a wonderful birth, a story shared softly from old to young, like a whisper of comfort before sleep. There was a man named Abraham. He lived in a tent under the wide, bright sky, where the stars told their own ancient tales. Abraham was quiet in his faith, a man who listened carefully to the world around him. He had a wife named Sarah, who was known for her kind and gentle heart. Together they lived many years, sharing moments both joyful and still. Abraham and Sarah were blessed with many things, a good home, friends, and memories that filled their days, but deep inside there was a longing, a silent wish they held near in their hearts. They longed for a son, a child to carry their name and walk their paths. Time passed slowly, the seasons changing one after another, yet the quiet hope remained. One evening, as the sun set softly behind the hills, Abraham sat outside his tent. The air was cool, wrapped in the stillness of approaching night. Suddenly there was a gentle presence nearby. It was like the hush of a breeze through leaves or the soft steps of something holy coming close. Abraham looked up, calm eyes meeting a stranger's. The visitor spoke gently, promising that in a year to come, Sarah would hold a son in her arms. Abraham listened carefully, his heart slow and steady. It was a promise that felt both impossible and sure. You see, Sarah was long past the age when most women had children. The promise seemed like a tender mystery, wrapped in wonder. Back in the tent, Sarah heard the words too. At first she laughed quietly, softly in a way that did not carry harshness, but surprise. There was a softness to her laughter, a sound not of disbelief, but of amazement at the mystery of what was being said. She could not hold the thought still. It flickered gently within her like a candle's flame in the evening. Days went by, each one slow and steady, marked by the routine of life in the quiet camp. Abraham and Sarah moved with the rhythm of the earth beneath their feet, waiting. The promise rested silently among them, growing like a seed held warm in the soil. Then, as the time whispered closer, the change started deep within Sarah. It was a strange feeling, tender and new, as if a small light had been kindled inside her. She spoke softly to Abraham, sharing the secret with the ease of night talking to the stars. The day arrived when Sarah's heart was full of a quiet joy. The tent was filled with a peace that moved gently through the air, like the slow unfolding of a flower. In that calm time, Sarah gave birth to a son. His name was Isaac, which means he laughs. His laughter was not loud or sudden, but soft and sweet. It carried the gentle echo of Sarah's own amazement, a melody of hope realized. Isaac's arrival was like a new dawn, the world quiet and full of gentle light. Abraham and Sarah looked at their son with eyes full of love. The promise they had held in their hearts was now in their arms, warm and very real. Their lives, once marked by waiting, now blossomed with the calm joy of this new life. Friends and neighbors came slowly to see the child, bringing small gifts and quiet blessings. The camp was softened by their smiles, the sound of gentle welcome. Isaac's days began wrapped in the easy rhythm of family life. Soft talks, gentle touches, and the slow unfolding of each moment into the next. At night, Abraham would tell Isaac stories beneath the stars. His voice was low and steady, a soft rhythm in the cool air. Sometimes the stories drifted to the promise given before his birth, spoken in a way only a father's heart could hold, full of quiet wonder and deep love. Sarah watched with a tender smile. Her laughter, once a sound of surprise, now filled the tent with warmth. She held Isaac close, singing soft songs that seemed to carry the very breath of the earth. The land around them stretched wide and peaceful, the hills rolling gently under the sun's kind light. In the mornings, the birds sang soft melodies, and the breeze moved through the trees like a whispered blessing. Isaac grew day by day, each one wrapped in the gentle care of his parents. He was a quiet child, his eyes bright and curious. The world was full of soft colors and slow sounds, all waiting patiently for him to learn their secrets. Sometimes Abraham and Sarah would sit together and look at Isaac, marveling quietly at the gift they had been given. The promise was no longer just words, it was life, breathing softly in the gentle face of their son. This story, so old and calm, is like a lullaby carried on the wind. It reminds us that sometimes the most wonderful things come after a long time of quiet waiting. The birth of Isaac was a soft miracle, wrapped in the gentle light of a promise kept, a song told slowly in the night. The world moved on around them, steady and kind. The future held its own mysteries, whispered softly in the cool air. But here in this peaceful moment, Isaac's life was a gift, tender and true, and so the story lingers softly, a gentle memory to hold close, like a warm blanket, or a quiet prayer spoken in the dark. The birth of Isaac, a calm beginning, wrapped in the slow and steady rhythm of a hopeful heart. Seasons moved gently onward, each day folding into the next like soft petals opening to welcome the light. Isaac grew beneath the steady watchfulness of his parents, his small hands curling into theirs as he reached for the world. The air was often tender with the scent of earth and dry grasses, and the sky arched wide and blue above them, an ever-present canvas for their quiet lives. Abraham found joy in the simplicity of these moments, the way Isaac's eyes widened with wonder and the flutter of a bird, the soft grasp of an infant's fingers as he reached toward his beard, the delicate rise and fall of a breath as sleep claimed the child. Each small gesture carried weight beyond measure, each breath a precious thread woven into the fabric of their story. Sarah observed Isaac with a profound tenderness that seemed born from the long journey of longing and hope. The echoes of that laughter, they who had laughed when the promise was first made, now blossomed in the child's smile, lighting their days. She hummed gentle songs as she rocked him, melodies that wove through the quiet dusk and settled softly over the tent. In the evenings, the family would step outside to where the stars stretched like fragments of ancient light, scattered across the heavens. Abraham spoke softly to Isaac of the days to come, of promises whispered long ago and the faith that held steady through the waiting. These stories were not merely tales, but living threads, connecting past to present, earth to sky. Friends lingered nearby, their visits warm with kindness and the sharing of meals. The community danced around the folding of generations, embracing Isaac as a seed of promise now rooted in their midst. Their laughter and blessings mingled with the soft murmur of the desert wind, weaving a quilt of care around the young family. As Isaac learned to sit, to babble, to reach and crawl, there was a sacredness in every first. His first smile, a beacon of light. His first word, a song of belonging. With each step, the family's hope found new breath, growing stronger, steadier. They nurtured him in quiet moments saturated in love, each tender touch, a silent promise renewed. Abraham's voice became a steady current carrying stories through the quiet night air, tales of stars that burned long before their time, of journeys traced beneath the watchful moon, of a God who spoke through dreams and promises. Isaac listened, eyes wide with wonder, the young mind blossoming under such gentle guidance. Sarah, too, found her voice in these hours, soft words of welcome, lullabies woven from the fabric of their lives. She filled their home with laughter that sang against the backdrop of the stillness, a reminder that joy and patience could live together within the heart. Each smile she exchanged with Isaac was a quiet prayer, a benediction whispered in the hush of twilight. The land between them and the horizon held its own steady pulse, unhurried and sure. Winds stirred the sands and grasses with a rhythm as ancient as time, as constant as the promise that carried through their days. The sun's warm glow spilled across the earth each morning, blessing the beginnings and endings that shaped their lives. In the quiet mornings, Isaac would rest nestled against Sarah's chest, his fingers tracing soft patterns on her skin. Abraham sat near, watching the play of shadows and light, feeling the fullness of the moment in his soul. In these small spaces, the weight of years past and the hope of days to come found harmony. Sometimes moments came when Abraham's eyes would glisten with unshed tears, quiet thanks for the gift cradled before him, a life born from whispers of faith and a promise etched deep within the heart. Sarah's touch was steady and sure, a wellspring of strength that cradled them all in unspoken peace. As Isaac's days unfolded, the family found a rhythm that felt both new and eternal. The dance of care and growth, of teaching and learning, spun slowly beneath the watchful sky. Their world was woven from the simple threads of love, patience, and the quiet certainty of a promise fulfilled. Each night, as the stars kindled their light above, a family would gather close. Abraham would point upward, tracing constellations with his finger, sharing the stories that had breathed life into their hopes. Isaac's gaze followed, a small flame of wonder reflected in his eyes, a child beginning to understand the vastness of the world and the tenderness that held it. Sarah's voice would then fill the air, soft songs that wrapped around the heart like a gentle breeze, melodies passed through time, carrying the essence of their journey. The laughter of a child, the murmur of a mother, the steady presence of a father, all threading together beneath the vast, enduring sky. And in those moments, the world felt still and full, a quiet miracle stretching beyond words. Isaac's laughter, the very meaning of his name, echoed softly through the tent and beyond, a beacon of life's promise kept, a symbol of hope renewed. The days grew fuller with Isaac's unfolding life. First steps taken with trembling courage, first words spoken with bright clarity. Each milestone was met with joy and gratitude, each moment a quiet celebration of the miracle they had been given. The tent brimmed with light and laughter, a refuge from the wide, wild world beyond. Sometimes, Abraham would gaze at Isaac sleeping, the child's chest rising and falling in rhythm with the gentle wind outside. In that steady breathing, Abraham recognized the heartbeat of a promise fulfilled, the living testament to faith's endurance. He whispered thanks, silent yet deep, carried like a prayer on the night air. Sarah entered these moments with a steady heart, her hands smoothing the child's hair, her eyes reflecting the calm strength born from years of waiting. In these quiet exchanges, a language of love and hope passed between them, words that needed no sound, feelings as deep as the earth beneath their feet. Together, Abraham and Sarah watched Isaac grow, each day a step along a path that stretched into the unknown, yet grounded in the surety of promise and love. Their story, once marked by longing and doubt, now gleamed with the soft light of fulfillment, a testament to the gentle passage of time and faith. And all around them the world held its breath, the desert's hush, the soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, all joining in the silent celebration. Isaac's life was a quiet song, a tender gift unfolding beneath the endless sky, a living echo of laughter meant to carry through generations. As the sun dipped low each evening, casting long shadows over the land, the family gathered close. Abraham's stories grew deeper, weaving wisdom with wonder. Sarah's lullabies melted into the night's calm, and Isaac's laughter, light and free. Their days were simple, yet rich with meaning. The promise had been kept, not with grandeur or noise, but with the gentle unfolding of life lived patiently and with faith. And in this quiet miracle, the birth of Isaac continued to shine, a soft, enduring light in the tapestry of their lives. The world held them gently, and in that gentle holding, they found peace. Hope had grown into love, laughter had blossomed into legacy, and the quiet promise whispered long ago had come home at last. Seasons moved quietly forward, one weaving into the next, with the gentle passing of sunlight and shadow across the land. Isaac grew, not just in stature, but in spirit, a tender spirit that seemed to hold within it the soft echo of the prayers that had woven his life into being. Each dawn, Sarah would rise first, her hands brushing past the small folds of Isaac's swaddling, as she listened to the hush before the world stirred. In those moments, she gave thanks in silence, the invisible threads of her gratitude stitching tightly with the morning breeze. Abraham, too, found his mornings transformed. The first breath of day no longer carried only the weight of expectation, but a lightness, an openness, inviting him to walk with a heart made new by the simple joy of Isaac's presence. Together they moved through their days in a tender choreography of learning and teaching. Abraham's voice, steady and low, shared stories of their ancestors and the promises held in the stars. Isaac's eyes, wide and unburdened by fear or doubt, drank in these tales as if they were the very air he needed to breathe. Sarah, with her calm gaze and gentle hands, taught patience and kindness, not through words but through the way she held Isaac close, soothing away his fears and offering comfort that needed no explanation. The world around them seemed to celebrate in subtle ways, The fields, once barren, now glimmered with wildflowers swaying in the breeze, as if nature too was reaching out in quiet jubilation. Birds, their songs richer with the passing days, fluttered above, a chorus that seemed to echo the laughter and lightness now filling their home. At night, the family's small hearth would gather warmth not only from the flame, but from the presence of one another. Abraham would trace patterns in the shifting shadows, his voice a soft murmur guiding Isaac's dreams. Sarah's lullabies, ancient and steady, floated through the air like a balm, wrapping softly around the sleeping child. There was an unspoken understanding between Abraham and Sarah now. The years of waiting had transformed into moments of pure being. No longer tethered to the future's uncertainty, they simply existed in the fragile perfection of now, their hearts beating in quiet rhythm alongside Isaac's steady breath. Weeks turned to months, and Isaac's first tentative steps were met with tears of joy and whispered prayers. Each small milestone was a testament to the delicate miracle they had been given, a constant unfolding of hope made flesh. Abraham's eyes often brimmed, not with sorrow but with a deep, peaceful pride. He saw in Isaac the living promise, the path that stretched beyond him into a future both mysterious and wondrous. Sarah's strength, ever present and unwavering, was like the steady earth beneath their feet. In her embrace, Isaac found safety and love, a shelter from the unknown. And as the moon's silver light spilled softly through the windows, casting long shadows that danced quietly on the walls, the family would settle in the hush of night. Together beneath the vast sky that had witnessed so much, they found rest. In those still, sacred moments, the world seemed to pause, a breath held in awe at the miracle of Isaac, the living proof that patience and faith were not empty words, but the very rhythm of life itself. And so their days unfolded, not with grand gestures or loud celebrations, but with the tender, steady heartbeat of love made visible. The simple, quiet truth of Isaac's life wrapped around them all, a gentle balm and enduring light. As the seasons softened their passage, Isaac's laughter became a melody that wove itself into the fabric of Abraham and Sarah's days. It was a light, airy sound, effortless and pure, a tender echo of the promise that had hovered unseen, yet palpably present before his birth. Each joyful outburst, each babbling attempt at words, filled their home with a renewal that transcended time. Sarah watched Isaac's hands reach out curiously, grasping fragments of the world with a gentle, eager grace. She often caught herself marveling at how serene his gaze remained, as though the very essence of peace had been distilled into his small being. Around him the land seemed to breathe in harmony, leaves shifting softly in the wind, birds chirping in delicate choruses, the sun leaving golden kisses on the earth. Abraham, for his part, found a quiet strength in the simplicity of watching his son grow. He spoke less now of far-off places and vast promises. Instead, he focused on the here and now, the warmth of Isaac's skin, the faintest smile playing on his lips, the way he would snuggle close at night, seeking shelter beneath father's steady hand. This was the miracle Abraham had always hoped for, living and breathing beside him. Their days became a gentle rhythm, morning light filtering through the tents, Isaac's small footsteps exploring the soft earth, midday tales spun around the hearth, and twilight's hush inviting quiet reflection. Often Sarah would sing softly to Isaac, her voice a lullaby that grounded them both. The notes carried a weight of gratitude, intertwined with hope, a fragile promise held tenderly between mother and child. One afternoon, as Isaac picked at tiny wildflowers, Abraham sat nearby, his thoughts drifting though firmly anchored by the family's shared joy. The quiet hum of bees and the rustle of wind-borne leaves formed a symphony of natural calm. Abraham's heart held no space for the concerns that had once tangled him. Now, there was only this, the sacred present, the unfolding story, held in their shared breath. Sarah, ever watchful, noticed the small moments when Isaac would pause and look deeply into the distance, as if sensing something beyond the visible. She felt these moments keenly, an unspoken connection threading them through time and spirit. Their son carried more than life. He carried the legacy of faith itself, nurtured softly in the soil of trust and the water of patient love. Evenings were marked by a tender stillness. The fire's glow whispered stories as Abraham recounted the ancient journeys of their people, tales from a past filled with struggle, resilience, and divine promise. Isaac's eyes mirrored the flicker of the flames, absorbing the cadence of his father's voice, each word weaving a safety net of belonging and identity. Sarah smiled quietly beside them, her hands resting gently on Isaac's head, a gesture that spoke volumes without uttering sound. On nights when the stars stretched wide like scattered jewels against the deep velvet sky, Abraham would step outside, feeling the cool hush settle over the land. The very air seemed to hum with blessing, as if the heavens themselves bent closer to witness the family's growing light. He would close his eyes, breathing in the serenity carried on the night breeze, grateful for the simple miracle of now, for Isaac's soft breath beside him, for Sarah's peaceful presence, for the quiet certainty that faith, patience, and love had borne fruit. In those moments, Abraham understood deeply that their journey was not a path marked only by grand declarations or distant horizons. It was, more beautifully, a sacred unfolding, step by step, breath by breath, day by day. Isaac was no longer merely a promise to be fulfilled. He was a living testament to the power held in stillness, trust, and gentle endurance. Sarah's tender care had shaped Isaac's world from the very beginning. Her hands, delicate yet steady, had soothed many a restless night, her voice a balm against the fears that sometimes surfaced in the quiet hours. She taught Isaac patience not through words, but by the very essence of her being, calm, kind, unwavering. Watching him learn to trust, to reach gently toward the unknown, Sarah knew the seeds of that same faith had been planted in her heart long ago. As Isaac took his first unsteady steps, laughter spilled freely between them, the stumble, the pause, the triumphant upright, each moment a tiny triumph etched with hope. Abraham and Sarah exchanged glances, their eyes moist with quietly held gratitude. This child, small and fragile, was the embodiment of all their prayers, a living bridge between past promises and future dreams. The land around them, ever responsive, seemed to flourish with every day that passed. Birds nested in newly budding branches, the once crisp leaves of early spring softened, swaying gently in the breeze. The nearby stream's song grew stronger, as if celebrating the life blossoming at its edge. Nature and family moved together in quiet, effortless harmony. As Isaac's world expanded, so did the stories told beneath the canopy of stars. Abraham would whisper tales of journeys made across deserts and mountains, of faith held steady amidst storms, of kindness found in unexpected places. Her words weaving into the growing tapestry of Isaac's understanding, a foundation built not on certainty alone, but on the quiet courage found in trust. Neither Abraham nor Sarah rushed these moments. They savored the slow unfolding, aware that the greatest gifts often take time to reveal themselves. They observed Isaac with patient hearts, giving space for his spirit to grow uninhibited, nourished by their love and faith. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a soft amber light across the land, Sarah sat with Isaac beneath an olive tree. She touched his cheek softly, speaking in whispered tones filled with hope. "My son," she said gently, "may your heart always know peace, and your spirit remain kind." Isaac's eyes, steady and calm, met hers. In that gaze was the breath of a future not yet written, a path walked in patience, guided by the enduring light of love. Even as the years promised more change, Abraham and Sarah clung to this simple truth. Life's most profound grace emerges not in haste, but in quiet constancy. Isaac, their child, was the living proof of that grace, a gentle, enduring flame lighting their way forward. And so, in the soft glow of evening, surrounded by the whispers of wind and the hum of distant stars, their family rested, each heart beat in gentle unity, a steady rhythm of hope and faith. The birth of Isaac was more than a beginning. It was an ever-growing light, gentle, steadfast, and whole, casting warmth over those who nurtured it now and always. As Isaac's days grew into months, each morning was greeted with a subtle rhythm, a soft unfolding of life's quiet miracles. The sun would tiptoe over the horizon, casting golden hues across the simple tent. Inside, the gentle sounds of rustling cloth and whispered prayers blended with the faint melody of a lullaby sung by Sarah. Abraham would rise early, stepping outside to breathe in the cool desert air, the vast sky above unrolling like a tapestry embroidered with infinite stars. His heart, still tender with gratitude, held the weight and wonder of all that had passed, the journey, the waiting, the promise fulfilled. His gaze often lingered upward, searching the heavens not for answers, but in quiet contemplation, feeling the steady pulse of the covenant that tethered them to a future yet unwritten. Isaac, now more steady upon his feet, found delight in the small discoveries scattered around their encampment. A smooth pebble from the dry riverbed, a feather drifting down from a soaring hawk, the soft petals of wildflowers dancing in the breeze. Each was a tiny treasure, and though silence often enveloped his explorations, his eyes spoke volumes of curiosity and wonder. Sarah watched him with a softness that seemed to wrap her whole being, a serene smile always at the ready. She understood the profound simplicity of these moments, the quiet patience embedded in every glance and gesture. Love, she knew, was not boastful or hurried, but steadfast and nurturing like the roots of the ancient olive trees under which she often sat to contemplate. One afternoon, as the sky wore the pale blue of early spring, Sarah lifted Isaac gently into her lap beneath the spreading branches. The leaves whispered songs of renewal in the breeze. Her hands cradled his small frame as she spoke softly, her words wrapped in blessings like a gentle shawl. "My son," she murmured, "may your heart always rest in the calm of these ancient trees, steady and unshaken. May kindness guide your every step, and peace be your companion in every battle." Isaac looked up, his eyes meeting hers with a quiet understanding, far beyond his years. Though he could not yet string words together, the connection between mother and son was a language all its own. Abraham joined them soon after, settling down with a tired smile etched by years of travel and faith. Placing a hand on Isaac's shoulder, he whispered promises of strength and hope, recounting tales of their ancestors with reverence and joy. Nightfall wove its soft shadows through the tent, transforming their small world into a sanctuary of gentle sounds, the crackle of a dying fire, the distant call of a night bird, the steady breathing of their sleeping child. This tranquility was a balm for the soul, a reminder that the greatest blessings often bloom in the stillness. Days continued to stretch across the seasons. Isaac's small hands learned to weave strands of grass into simple cords, his laughter mingling with the rustling branches. Abraham and Sarah's faith deepened quietly, mirrored in the steady growth of their son and the fertile earth surrounding them. Sometimes strangers would pause by their campfire, drawn by the warmth of their hospitality. Abraham would listen intently to their stories, his wisdom gently offered like fragrant herbs to soothe weary spirits. Sarah would share bread and soft herbs, her eyes reflecting a grace both humble and profound. Through all these exchanges, Isaac absorbed lessons not from spoken words alone, but from the tender example laid before him, the kinds of lessons taught in gentle glances, steady hands, and unwavering presence. On a cool evening painted with the soft light of a silver moon, Abraham led Isaac to a quiet hill outside their camp. The sky above was a vast canvas of stars, each one seeming to pulse with eternal promise. "Look," Abraham said softly, "my son, every star is a story, a piece of the covenant between heaven and earth. Just as these lights never cease, so does the love that holds us, the faith that carries us." Isaac's small fingers curled around his father's, quietly embracing this moment of wonder. No words were needed. Here, under the watchful gaze of celestial fire, their hearts spoke freely. Seasons turned as they are destined to do, the tender green buds of spring giving way to the full bloom of summer, which then softened into the warm hues of autumn. Each change echoed the unfolding story within their family, one marked not by grand proclamations but by steady growth. Courage lived in quiet faith. Sarah continued to weave her gentle wisdom into the fabric of daily life. She taught Isaac the soft arcs, the delicate threading of cloth, the hush of early morning prayers, the taste of herbs that heal without harm. Her voice, a soft current beneath the vast canopy of sky. Abraham, too, grew stronger in his role, not just as patriarch, but as storyteller and guide. By firelight he shared memories of distant journeys over rugged hills and barren lands, speaking not of hardship alone, but of the steadfastness that carried them through. His voice was calm, unwavering, weaving timeless truths into the warm night air. Isaac listened keenly, his young mind never rushing ahead, but savoring each word, as one savors the first hint of rain after a long drought. These stories became the framework of his own understanding, gentle threads woven through his soul. One morning, as dawn painted soft blush across the sky, Sarah lifted Isaac into her arms and carried him to the edge of the encampment. There, amidst wildflowers and ancient stones, she knelt and pressed her hands upon the earth. "May your roots reach deep, my son," she whispered, "like the mighty cedars that stand firm against every storm. Grow with patience, strength, and grace." Isaac reached out to touch the rough bark of a nearby tree, his tiny fingers tracing the timeless lines etched by years of sun and wind. There was a stillness in his gaze that mirrored the earth beneath them, a calm knowing that some growth is quiet, unseen, yet vital. Days blended softly into one another, their pace steady and sure as the turning of the seasons. Isaac's world was shaped by touch and sight, by the rhythm of prayer and the comfort of shared silence. At night, within the warmth of their tent, Abraham and Sarah often held each other's hands in quiet thanksgiving. The long path that once seemed fraught with uncertainty now shimmered like a river of light, flowing steady and strong. In Isaac they saw more than a son. They saw the living promise of enduring faith, a gentle light kindled through patience and love. And as the family rested beneath the canopy of stars, heartbeats synchronized with the night's serene breath, a profound peace settled over them, a quiet testament to the power of waiting, trusting, and growing together. Seasons continued to flow, quiet and steady, like a soft river shaped by gentle winds. Isaac watched the world change, learning the subtle rhythms of the earth beneath his feet, and the sky stretching endlessly above. With each passing day he grew a little taller, a little stronger, yet still moved with the tender calm that marked his spirit. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, painting the horizon with strokes of amber and rose, Sarah found Isaac sitting by the fig tree. His small hands traced patterns in the dry earth, careful, deliberate. She settled beside him, her voice a soft melody carried on the evening breeze. "Isaac," she said, "the earth you touch is old and wise. Its strength comes from enduring many seasons, just like you will. Feel the soil, its coolness and dryness. Remember that growth can be quiet beneath the surface, even when you cannot see it." Isaac nodded slowly, eyes meeting hers with the depth of one already learning patience. Sarah smiled and handed him a small bundle of herbs bound with a woven strip of cloth. "These will heal, but only in the right moments. They must be gentle, thoughtful." Abraham joined them, his steps soft in the cool earth. He carried a small, worn book of stories, letters and prayers passed down through generations. Sitting near the fire later that evening, he opened it carefully and began to speak in a low, even tone. "Isaac," he said, "stories hold the breath of our ancestors. They are the stars that guide us when nights are dark. Listen well, and you will find strength in their voices, courage in their journeys." Isaac's eyes brightened with quiet wonder as Abraham's words floated like smoke, tales of distant lands, of tests that demanded faith more than force, of kindness that built bridges over deserts. The boy, nestled between his parents as the fire flickered, felt the warmth of something greater than himself, something enduring. Days turned into weeks. One morning, Isaac rose before dawn and stepped alone into the cool mist that curled from the river. The sounds of waking life, birdsong, the rustle of leaves, the gentle rush of water, taught him the sacredness of beginnings. He knelt by the riverbank, cupping cool water in his hands, and whispered a simple prayer of gratitude. It was a moment held in silence, the kind where time seems to pause, so the soul can listen. Returning to camp, Isaac found Sarah weaving slender reeds into a basket. She looked up and smiled warmly. "Every thread matters," she said, "and every moment we share is part of a greater whole. Even when the weave seems simple, it holds you, just as our family holds you." The year folded into itself with cycles marked by quiet work and gentle reflection. When autumn arrived, their fields yielded fruit abundant and full. Abraham thanked the earth aloud one evening, his voice steady and humble, his hands raised toward the sky. "Our journey is blessed not only by the heavens but by the soil beneath our feet," he said. "May we always be grateful for both." Isaac watched his father, understanding more with each passing day the vastness of love that bore all things. Growth and patience, hope and challenge, joy wrapped in the threads of everyday life. One night, beneath a sweeping canopy of stars, the family once again climbed the hill where Abraham had first shown Isaac the celestial multitude. The air was cool, touched by the crisp edge of approaching winter. Sarah wrapped an arm around Isaac's shoulders, and Abraham pointed upward. "See those stars?" he asked softly. "Ancient and infinite, yet close enough to guide us. Each one a promise, a covenant between the past and the future, like the love we carry, steady, silent, unbreakable." Isaac's gaze wandered the glittering sky, wonder filling his heart. In that quiet moment under the vast heavens, he understood that faith was not always loud or urgent. Sometimes it was gentle and constant, like the stars themselves, always present, even when clouds hid them from view. Winter came with its quiet hush. The fire crackled low, casting dancing shadows. Sarah taught Isaac to prepare herbal salves, her voice patient and calm. Abraham shared stories of resilience, reminding Isaac that hard times were part of the journey, not its end. Isaac's heart grew, rooted deeper like the ancient cedars his mother loved. The family's days were a tapestry woven from whispered prayers, soft laughter, and steadfast hope. As the frost faded and the earth began to stir again, Isaac helped plant new seeds in the fertile ground. His hands, once small and tentative, worked the soil with surety and care. Sarah and Abraham watched with gentle pride. Their son, calm in spirit and strong in faith, was becoming the man they had dreamed of, one who would carry their legacy forward with kindness and quiet courage. One evening, as the sun lowered behind the hills, Isaac sat with his parents, the land before them alive with promise. Sarah reached out, brushing a strand of hair from his brow. Abraham's hand rested on Isaac's shoulder, steady and warm. "Wherever your path leads," Abraham said softly, "remember this: trust is the foundation beneath all things. It is the light we carry when shadows come. It is the pulse of love that never fades." Isaac listened, feeling the weight and wonder of these words settle deep inside. The stars appeared one by one, like tiny lamps igniting in the vastness. The night offered its serene blessing, wrapping the family in a timeless embrace. Together they sat in peaceful silence, a circle of light, hope, and enduring faith, ready to face whatever the morrow might bring with open hearts and steady hands. Spring breathed quietly into their world once more, soft and deliberate. The earth beneath their feet shifted gently, nudged awake by warming light and tender rain. Isaac stood at the edge of the garden, the soil cool and rich between his fingers, the scent of new growth sweet in the air. His parents watched him with gentle smiles, unspoken love glowing in their eyes. Sarah's hands brushed a stray lock of hair from Isaac's brow, her touch gentle as a whisper. Abraham reached down, his rough fingers steadying Isaac's as they pressed a seed deep into the earth. Together their hands told a silent promise, a vow to nurture, to hold steady amid the cycles of seasons and life. Isaac felt the pulse of the earth beneath his palms and the promise of what might grow. He dug small furrows, careful and rhythmic, aligning each seed with care. The garden was more than just a patch of land. It was a living breath of hope, a testament to patience and purpose. In this earth, the roots carried the stories of all their days, and the shoots reached skyward like prayers. In the quiet mornings that followed, Isaac found himself waking with a heart full of stillness. The world sang in soft, inviting notes, the chirp of robins, the rustle of tender leaves, the trickle of a nearby stream. These were the moments Sarah called sacred, the spaces where time folded gently, inviting reflection and presence. Isaac learned to listen deeply, to find a steady rhythm beneath life's constant flow. One morning, as dawn stretched its pink fingers across the horizon, Abraham led Isaac to a gentle clearing near the hill. The air held a crispness that sharpened the senses, and the first rays of sun spilled like honey over dew-drenched grass. Abraham's voice was low and steady as he spoke. "Isaac," he said, "this hill has seen many seasons. It has stood through storms and calm, through shadow and light. Just like this hill, there is strength in standing firm through life's changes." Isaac looked out over the rolling land, the village far below, and the sky vast and open above. In this place, he felt the power of endurance, not in rigidity, but in quiet resilience. As the days lengthened, Isaac also noticed the subtle transformations in his parents. Sarah moved with a grace that seemed to mirror the steady flow of rivers. Abraham's words held deeper reflections, soft but strong. They both carried the wisdom of many years, yet appeared lightened by hope, rooted deeply in the present. One afternoon, Sarah invited Isaac to sit with her as she gathered freshly bloomed herbs along the path. Each plant has its story, she explained as she gently crushed a leaf between her fingers. Some heal wounds seen on the skin, others soothe what's hidden deep inside. Our lives are not unlike this garden, filled with moments that require tenderness and care. Isaac breathed in the earthy scent, feeling a calm spread to his chest. Healing, he understood, was more than mending. It was a way of moving forward, held gently within the embrace of love. As spring unfurled into summer, the garden transformed. Shoots pushed their way above the soil with quiet determination, leaves unfurling like hands reaching for sunlight. Isaac learned to care for each plant with patient attention, tending the sprouts, shielding them from harsh winds, and welcoming the soft rains that nourished roots. Evenings were often spent by the fire, where Abraham's voice wove stories both ancient and new. One night, under a cloak of sleep-soaked stars, Abraham spoke of paths that always seem to wind and bend but lead always home. Faith, he said, is the lantern we carry when darkness visits. It is not a sudden blaze, but a gentle flame, steady and sure. Isaac listened, feeling the warmth from both fire and father, growing comfort in the steady glow of faith's gentle light. As summer's long days ripened, laughter came more freely, carried on breeze and sunbeam. Isaac's heart swelled with quiet joy as he played among rustling leaves and flowering bushes. Each step seemed to connect him more deeply with the land, his parents, and the future they nurtured together. Sarah often reminded Isaac to look beyond what eyes could reach. There is more in the space between moments than we often see, she whispered one soft evening as twilight shimmered like silk across the hills. Isaac tried to understand, feeling the weight of mystery and wonder that hovered just beyond sight. It was a lesson in patience, in trusting what was unseen, alive in the spaces of hope and faith. By late summer the garden bore fruit, clusters of red berries, hands of corn yellow and full, and vines heavy with squash. Harvest time was a celebration of generosity, a time to gather the earth's blessings and reflect in gratitude. One afternoon, with baskets full, the family gathered beneath their favorite oak. Abraham looked out through tired but shining eyes. In all these fruits, he said gently, is the promise of life's abundance. What we sow with care and love returns to us in blessing. Isaac felt that blessing fold around him like a familiar shawl, safe and infinite. The nights, deep and clear, remained a canvas for Abraham's words. Beneath constellations glowing with timeless light, the family shared dreams and stories woven with threads of courage and love. Isaac understood, more fully now, that their lives were connected, not just by blood, but by unspoken vows of faith, hope, and trust. One night, as the fire's embers glowed softly, Sarah took Isaac's hands in hers. "Remember, dear one," she said, voice tender as the night breeze, "love is the thread that holds all things together, even when we cannot see it." Isaac nodded, feeling the truth of those words rippled gently through his soul. When autumn came again, cloaking the world in hues of amber and gold, Isaac noticed a new calm in his spirit. There was a quiet certainty swelling within, a calm born not of knowing everything, but of trusting deeply in the path laid before him. He sat on the hilltop with his parents, the stars awakening overhead with familiar brilliance. Abraham spoke softly. "Our lives are like these stars, Isaac," he said, each flame steady and sure, shining quietly, no matter the darkness around it. Sarah rested her head on Abraham's shoulder as Isaac looked upward, the great sky vast and full. The stars were more than distant lights. They were reminders of love's steadfastness, unbroken and eternal. In the stillness of that night, Isaac felt his heart root deeply, like the oldest tree, a soul anchored in faith, hope, and enduring love. His parents' legacy breathed in and around him, a gift carried gently into every step and season. Together, under the vastness of the sky, they were not just a family, but a living promise, woven tightly by threads of trust, patience, and the steady flame of love that would burn through all time. And as dawn kissed the world awake once more, Isaac rose with the gentle certainty that whatever journey lay ahead, he was never alone. The future stretched before him, a path woven with the sacred threads of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, a tapestry held tenderly by those who came before and those yet to come. The morning light stretched softly across the garden, painting gentle patterns on the leaves and petals nurtured by Abraham and Sarah's care. Isaac awoke with a quiet heart, the warmth of the family bond still wrapped around him like a tender shawl. Each day in the garden was a new blessing, every bud and bloom a reminder of patience and faith sown long before. Sarah often sat beside Isaac, her hands resting lightly on the earth, speaking in hushed tones. She taught him how the unseen roots beneath the surface held the garden firm, just as faith anchors the soul. What we cannot see, she said, is just as real, just as strong, for it is the foundation of all that grows. Isaac listened closely, feeling the truth of her words pulse gently beneath his skin. The roots of their love and trust, intertwined with those of the plants. Abraham's voice, steady and warm, would drift over the quiet moments. He spoke of journeys taken and promises made, of stars burnt bright overhead, and skies ancient and vast. Faith, he reminded Isaac, is the gentle flame that guides, never hurried, never forced. It burns quietly, but endlessly, even in darkness when all seems still. Isaac felt this gentle flame glowing within himself, a quiet assurance in the face of uncertainty. The garden began to change with the passing days. Vibrant fruits hung heavy on branches, and the soft scent of herbs wove through the air, mingling with the earth's own rich perfume. Together the family gathered the harvest, their hands moving with calm purpose. Each fruit and vegetable was a gift born of love, a testament to the quiet nurturing that never rushed, but always persevered. During these moments of gathering, Sarah's voice would soften, teaching Isaac that life's blessings often come through gentle persistence, not hurried achievement. Let things grow in their own time, she said, and they will flourish beyond what we can imagine. Isaac marveled at the way the smallest seeds had become lush, abundant life, a woven tapestry of hope and patience. As the late afternoon light poured golden across the garden, the family sat together, the gathered fruits spilling before them like treasures. Abraham's stories took on a new depth, speaking of connections that stretched beyond blood. They spoke of faith as a river, flowing silently beneath the surface, linking their hearts and dreams in ways unseen but unbreakable. Isaac could feel the river moving through him, steady and alive. Evening arrived softly, and with it came a quiet stillness. Abraham's voice rose again around their modest fire, gentle and rhythmic, each word planting seeds of trust in Isaac's heart. "We walk not alone," he said. "In every heartbeat, every star's glow, every breath of wind, we are held. Our journey is shared, woven of hope and the unseen threads of love." Isaac closed his eyes, letting the words settle deep inside, like the roots he had learned to trust. Sarah reached for Isaac's hand, her touch tender as she spoke of love's invisible thread. "This thread, it is the strength between us," she said softly. "It holds us close, even when miles or years stretch apart. It is the quiet promise that we belong, that we are safe and whole with each other." Isaac felt the thread shimmer warmly, an unspoken comfort linking his spirit to hers and Abraham's. Night deepened, and the stars began their watchful dance across the sky. The ancient lights twinkled beyond count, each a steady beacon of hope and strength. Isaac lifted his gaze to the heavens, sensing the vastness, but also the intimacy of their glow. The stars were like whispered reminders, bright markers lighting his path, steady companions in the night's quiet embrace. In the heart of the garden, where life and light intertwined, Isaac's spirit took root and spread silently. He carried within him the quiet legacy of faith, hope, and love, the tender gifts passed down from his parents' steady hands and open hearts. These gifts were not loud or grand, but gentle and enduring, woven through every moment like soft threads in a timeless tapestry. As the first hint of dawn shimmered on the horizon, Isaac rose with a calm certainty. The future stretched before him, wide and unknown, yet he was not afraid, for he knew this. Within him burned the steady flame of faith, the unbreakable thread of love, and the deep river of hope that flowed through all things unseen but deeply known. With a soft breath, Isaac stepped forward into the new day. The garden whispered around him, an old quiet song of growth, patience, and life's enduring promise. And carrying the sacred legacy within his heart, Isaac was ready to walk his path, guided always by the gentle light of faith and love.